Hey guys, what is going on? It is Rachel here from Makers Gonna Learn, and today I have another incredibly fun tutorial for you all, but it's a big one this time, guys. I'm gonna be sharing with you exactly how to make the perfect glitter tumbler every time. It might sound hard to believe, and I know there's a lot of glitter tumbler videos out there, but you might have watched them and maybe you've had some success and maybe you've had some fails along the way. But guys, in this video, I'm going to set you up for 100% success because I have compared, contrasted, made pro and con lists for over 10 different techniques on how to make these, over 12 different tumblers. So with all of that being said, I know exactly how to make the perfect tumbler and I cannot wait to share it with you guys. Now here we have some of our finished tumblers that we have made in the last few weeks, and you can tell some of them have chunky glitter, some of them have fine glitter, some we have taped the bottom off, and some we have left the bottom to glitter as well. And I will tell you all of my tips and tricks. I cannot wait to give you all the step-by-step tutorials of these tumblers and tell you how to make the perfect one for you. So if you're excited, then let's jump into it. Okay guys, I know this table looks really overwhelming. There's things turning over here, there's glitter, there's popsicle sticks, there's gloves, there's a lot going on here, but all of these things are necessary to make the perfect glitter tumbler. And like I mentioned earlier, we did test out 10 different techniques through all of these almost a dozen tumblers, and I can't wait to share them each with you because we compare and contrast and make pros and cons of each thing we did differently with all the tumblers in order to make sure that by the end of this, we had the tutorial how to make the perfect tumbler. So we'll go over all the things that we compared and contrasted while making the tumblers. First up, we compared painter's tape to electrical tape when we were painting the rims of our glitter tumblers. Next up, we compared a pre-painted cup versus a all stainless steel cup. We really wanted to see if one or the other could hide the glitter better, or if this one needed less coats because it was pre-painted and things like that. Next, we compared Mod Podge and spray adhesive and which one let the glitter stick better and dried faster and things like that. And next up, guys, this was a pretty big one we compared, and that is using chunky glitter versus using fine glitter to make our tumblers. Next up, we compared using vinyl gloves in our hands to apply the epoxy onto our tumblers or a paintbrush to apply the epoxy onto our tumblers. Next, we tested using one thick coat of our chosen adhesive and glitter or two thin coats of our chosen adhesive and glitter. Next, we compared removing the tape from our tumblers and reapplying tape before the epoxy process versus leaving the same tape on the tumbler throughout the whole process. Then, after the first layer of epoxy has been dried, we tested sanding the chunky glitter and not sanding it, and sanding the fine glitter and not sanding it before applying your vinyl and the second coat of epoxy. And the last thing we compared, guys, was using a manual turner to turn our tumblers while all the epoxy is drying versus investing and building your own tumbler turner. So what do you guys think so far? I know it seems a little overwhelming with all this stuff on the table, but again, we have taken all of the stress out of it for you guys because we tested and contrasted and went head to head on so many different products in order to give you guys the best results. So now that we went through all of the ways that we compared and contrasted all of these supplies, let's get down to business. Okay guys, now that you've seen all the 10 techniques that we have done and used in all of these tumblers, we're going to go through them one by one, and I'm going to share with you which is our favorite in each category. Okay guys, first off, we're going to compare painter's tape versus electrical tape. Now, when we were making these tumblers, we found that electrical tape works so much better. I don't know why, and of course that's why we do these tests, is because we want to figure out why they seem to work best. But as you can see, our edge, we have a pretty nice edge there. And we loved using electrical tape for that edge. And this one that we used painter's tape on, you can see some imperfections and some spots here where the epoxy did like slide underneath the tape and not give us the perfectly crisp edge that we were looking for. Okay guys, the next thing we compared was using a pre-painted cup versus a all stainless steel cup. And to my surprise, there was actually no difference in the process of glitter. We didn't have to use more on this one or less on this one because it was painted. As you can see, the bottom of this tumbler is blue, and that is the entire color of the whole thing. And it ended up looking just as good as this one. We didn't have to apply any extra coats or anything on the all stainless steel one, so they were exactly the same. So what I wanted to tell you about that, guys, is that yes, they were the same, but as you could expect, the colored one did cost more money. It was almost $2 full more to buy. So in this case, I would obviously rather pick the all stainless steel, especially because there was no difference between them. Okay guys, next up is Mod Podge versus a spray adhesive. And what we learned here is that it's a lot easier to get 2 coats and let this dry out of this spray adhesive than it is to apply 2 coats of this thicker Mod Podge and allow it to dry. It takes longer to dry. And if we were just doing a 1 coat test like we have, the results are unanimously that the spray adhesive definitely wins that battle. Okay guys, now we're going to be comparing chunky glitter versus fine glitter. Now, it was totally fine working with both. I know that maybe chunky glitter might catch your eye more. You might like some of those colors better. You might just want the bling that it has. But guys, we have to say that testing over a dozen of these, fine glitter was our winner overall. It took less time to dry. It took up way less epoxy than the chunky glitter did. Almost 10 milliliters extra you have to use when you do use chunky glitter. And again, chunky takes longer to dry, and you have to sand chunky glitter for a good 20 minutes before you apply your vinyl to it if you so choose to use chunky glitter. So the fine glitter, with how much time you're spending on making these things, is just easier to work with. And as we said earlier, when we compared the Mod Podge and this spray adhesive, we did compare 2 coats of Mod Podge with 2 coats of glitter and 2 coats of this with 2 coats of glitter, and then we did 1 coat of each as well, just to get a lot of diversity. And we did find, like I mentioned before, that the Mod Podge took a lot longer to dry than this, and I don't think that it looked as good. It didn't hold near as much glitter as this guy did. So I would 100% recommend this spray adhesive. And we also recommend 2 thin coats of spray adhesive and 2 thin coats of glitter. You could do 1 thick coat of this and 1 thick coat of glitter if you were in a hurry, but if you really want these to look good, you're going to be doing 1 coat of this, then 1 coat of glitter, letting it dry, then another coat and another coat of glitter. And you all don't have to be worrying about writing all this down because we are going to get into the step-by-step tutorial. I just wanted to break down which of all of our products that we like and didn't like, and all of our compare and contrast things. I just wanted to lay all those out for you before we get into the tutorial. Okay, now we're comparing removing your tape before you add epoxy and not removing your tape before you add the epoxy. Now, the benefits of this, and I will preach this, and in the tutorial I will give you all more detail about it, but you want a seal with your epoxy all around your glitter tumbler. So you really do want to take off the tape and reapply the tape before you add your epoxy, so that it scoots up from the tape a little bit, and so you can get a good seal on your epoxy. And what I mean by that is here you can see a good seal on our epoxy. You can see just a little clear line here where the epoxy has came a little bit above the tape and created a perfect barrier between our epoxy and our glitter, so that it's going to stay in place for a long time. And then on the reverse side of that, this tumbler, we did not reapply the tape, and you can see that, I mean, I'm feeling glitter right now. You can feel the glitter. There's not a good seal. You know, I would be afraid of water getting under there with the glitter, and this is something you don't want. So you really want to take the time and reapply your tape just a tiny bit above where it was last time in order to get that good epoxy seal. Okay guys, here is a biggie. In this one, we compared sanding the chunky glitter and not sanding the chunky glitter. Now, again in the tutorial, I'm not even going to recommend using chunky glitter, but I know some of you out there are avid chunky glitter lovers, so I wanted to give you all this test just to let you all know what is up. So here, we sanded the chunky glitter. We just have a sanding block here. It's not a huge sanding block, and it's not a very thick grit, you know, or a very coarse grit. It's just a normal sanding block that you get. I think it's like 220 or something like that. But we sanded this guy for a good few minutes, and as you can see, the vinyl went on clear and perfect. We sanded it so it's on pretty smooth. You can't really see many imperfections with this. It looks pretty darn good. Now, this poor guy, we did not sand. We did not sand this chunky glitter, and this is what happens. I hope that you all can see that. This is a beautiful monogram that basically got ruined. I mean, this does not look great. You can see it's all bubbly and bumpy, and of course when you touch it, since there's two coats, it's completely smooth. But underneath there, since you did not sand, it looks awful. So make sure, if you do choose to do chunky glitter, which I honestly wouldn't recommend, but if you do choose to, spend a ton of time with your sandpaper, with your sanding block, and sand it down, because guys, you do not want to spend, what is it, like 24 plus hours making these guys with your hard work and all the money you're investing to end up like this. So take an extra 10 minutes and sand it, and you will be good to go. And next we did sanding fine glitter and then not sanding fine glitter. Now, guys, this is one of the big benefits of using fine glitter, because there was absolutely no difference. They both look awesome. They're both super smooth. The words are not bubbly or bumpy or anything like that. And because we used the fine glitter on both of these, they were so easy to go on. The vinyl stuck to them like glue. It was beautiful. The process was easy. And we did sand this pink one here, and it was basically a wasted 10 minutes, because I feel like it took a little bit of the sparkle away, especially because this is fine glitter. So guys, you do not have to sand fine glitter, which I'm super happy to say. It saves you all some time and saves you all some sandpaper. Okay guys, and now we're going to compare using gloves or paintbrush to apply our mixed epoxy onto our tumblers. And this was another hands down winner, guys, is to use gloves in your own hands. I like to scoop out some of the epoxy and lay it on gently onto my tumbler. And the biggest reason I do not like using this brush is because you cannot feel the spots that have epoxy, the spots that don't. You can't really feel the places that need a little more epoxy. But with your hands, guys, God gave you two amazing little hands here. So when we put our gloves on and we get our epoxy and we're applying it onto our tumblers, we can feel every single area that needs a little bit more, some that needs some taken away, the areas that don't have any. It's a foolproof way to get a good even coat of epoxy onto your tumblers, is using gloves and your hands. Okay guys, last up is using a hand manual turner or investing in using this automatic tumbler turner. Now, you might be thinking, I don't really want to make a tumbler turner, you know, especially if I'm just going to make a few of these, and you totally do not have to. But if you are making, I would honestly say more than 3 tumblers, invest in this. It is a rotisserie turner used for a grill. And we had one of our great friends come in and teach us how to build this very easily. And we have that video coming up super soon if it's not already out. So you need to check out how to build your electric tumbler turner, because you're going to want to do this, guys. Nobody wants to rig up a box with some pipes like I did for the manual test and turn them every so often. Guys, we just don't have the time. If you were wanting to sell these and you had to sit here for 6 hours and turn these every few seconds and then every few minutes, it would not be worth any amount of money to me personally, because that would just take up way too much of my time. But with this amazing tumbler turner, and this is white, so you might not be able to see, but this guy is turning. He's turning, and it's slow. It's a slow speed. It doesn't make any noise. It is absolutely perfect to have, especially when making these glitter tumblers. If you're spending all this time and money into making these guys, you really want to have your project to be successful. And honestly, guys, humans are not perfect. Sometimes you got to go make dinner. Sometimes you got to do something. What if your tumbler turner fail, or what if something terrible happened to it? With this, you know it's secure, you know it's constantly turning, and you can leave it on here overnight if you want to, if you're a little paranoid of the epoxy starting to drip. It is whatever you would like to do, personal preference, but It is so worth the investment into making one of these bad boys. Okay guys, now we're ready to go through the supplies and break down all the steps that we have for you guys to make the perfect glitter tumblers every time. Okay guys, to start off with, you're going to need some alcohol and some paper towels. You'll be using these a few times through the tumbler making process, so keep them handy. You're also going to need some electrical tape and the vinyl of your choice, whichever little vinyl saying or whatever that you want to put onto your tumblers later. You're going to need some spray adhesive, and we recommend this Loctite brand, and we love this General Performance, and it is 100 and it says light. So if y'all want to screenshot this, I know I had this up on the second camera earlier if you want to take a screenshot of that, but this is definitely the brand and the type and the strength that I would recommend. You're also going to need some polyurethane fast drying spray. Just the normal stuff you can get at Walmart is totally fine. And then my saving grace for this project has really been these gloves. Now we got a pack of 100 of these vinyl gloves at Walmart for like $9, and they were worth every penny. So go get you some of these gloves. They can be nylon, vinyl, latex, whatever you guys like is totally fine. You're going to need some high gloss resin, and this is the brand that I would 100% recommend. It's the Amazing Clear Cast, and it's a regular 2-step resin, and you guys will be so amazed at how far this goes to making your tumblers. I just had to open this the other day. We had 2 packs. One of them lasted me like 10 tumblers. Yeah, I think 10 tumblers for this, and that's of course 2 coats per tumbler, so that is a really, really good deal. It's a little expensive, but it's totally worth it. And with this, guys, they give you like little measuring cups, but what you have to do with resin is you have to mix them all separately, or mix them both separately and then mix them all together. And they also give you some sad little tiny sticks here along with the resin, which is good that they include that in case anybody, doesn't have anything else. But we kind of upped the ante a little bit, and we got some cups that were just a little bit larger. And these are very inexpensive. They come in a pack of like 200, I think it was, from Walmart. And these were perfect. And let me tell you guys, I started measuring it out, and then after about my 6th glitter tumbler, when I knew the ratio in my head, I knew what it looked like, I would just set 2 of these out and pour it, and then look and see if they were even, mix them together, and then pour them all into 1 cup and mix and go. But especially talking about those little bitty popsicle sticks they have, we got our jumbo popsicle sticks. These are easier to use to mix with. They mix faster. If you have these laying around, and let me tell you, what crafter doesn't have these laying around, you need to use these bigger ones because they did help a lot. And of course, you guys are going to need some glitter. Now again, I do not recommend using chunky glitter for this project. It takes too long. It takes up a lot more of your supplies that you have, and it takes up more time, and I just wouldn't recommend it. I would just stick with the fine glitter, and we have a ton of these, and it didn't take up a lot of glitter to do each of our tumblers depending on their size, but we did use 2 coats of this, and most of these are still halfway full. And I will say we got this fine glitter in a pack of 12 from Walmart, and it wasn't that expensive, and they have lasted a lot longer than I had hoped, so that's very good. But yes, you need some fine glitter. Of course, if you want to get more higher quality fine glitter, that is totally fine, but I wanted to make this tutorial pretty economical. I didn't want, to make it to where you had to go to like any kind of specialty stores to get this kind of stuff. I just wanted everything to be available at your local craft store and your local Walmart and things like that. So that's what we've got going for you guys today. And of course, you're going to need some tumblers. Now, leave it to me to actually glitter all of our tumblers. So I was running around here like a mad woman, grabbing all of the tumblers that we had and glittering all of them. I didn't even leave one blank or just stainless steel for us to show you today, but you know what they are. There's the Ozark Trail brand that Walmart carries that are super inexpensive. There are Yeti brands. There are all different types of brands, and you can buy colored ones like we talked about in our comparison earlier, but there's just not a lot of difference. So get some more bang for your buck and go ahead and just get all stainless steel ones. Okay guys, doesn't this look a lot less intimidating? I know that I had a table chock full of stuff earlier here for you guys to see, but now that I've told you everything that we compared and contrasted, and that now that we have like the recipe for a perfect glitter tumbler, this is all that you'll need. And this is going to be the perfect tutorial for you, especially if you have tried glitter tumblers and they have not turned out so good. I really, really hope that you enjoy this tutorial because I guarantee success if you follow these steps. Okay guys, I don't want to freak you out, but I'm a very organized person. I like things quick and to the point. I like to follow instructions. I'm very good at gathering and following instructions. And so I have wrote out the instructions for you guys and I'm going to tell you about them today. But there are 17 steps to a perfect glitter tumbler. Now I don't want that number to scare you too bad. Most of them are just one sentence. A couple of them are just remove tape is just one of the steps. So don't get overwhelmed. Don't think it's going to take you a year to make one of these tumblers. It takes a little over 24 hours before it's completed and before it just needs to cure. So the cure time after it's all said and done is another 24 hours. But I would say all together with the curing time and everything, it takes 48 hours to make one. But don't get overwhelmed. Don't get too frustrated because with this tutorial, you will have success come that 48-hour mark. So let's jump in to the tutorial. Okay guys, now the first thing you're going to want to do, pretend this is just stainless steel. I know that I've already glittered on it, but I don't have any that are new and unopened yet, so bear with me. But the very first thing you're going to want to do is take the top off of these tumblers. You don't want the top to be in your way or anything, and it's got an airtight seal. As you can see, it was a little hard for me to take off. So take off the top of these guys, and then there will be a label across the middle of your cup. Go ahead and take that off and use your alcohol to get off any residue that you've left on the cup. And then what you're going to do is take your alcohol again, put your hand inside the cup is what I like to do, and you're going to wipe off the entire tumbler with alcohol. Be sure to get the edges on the top and the bottom and just set it down and allow it to dry for a few minutes. And then after it dries for a few minutes and you know the stainless steel is completely dry, you're going to take your electrical tape and go over the edges of your tumbler where you do not want any adhesive, any glitter, or anything to go. Now, we have tested this some different ways when we have just done the top, where we have done the top and the bottom, where we have taped off just a tiny bit of the edge on the top. And really it's personal preference, guys, depending on your color. Like this one, I think it looks good how it is, I really do. But this guy here, I wish that I had taken the glitter all the way to the bottom because as you can see, this top is stainless steel, but the bottom is blue. So it's a little bit confusing. I don't think it looks bad by any stretch of the imagination, but I wish that I had had this glitter going all the way down. So it depends on you and your tumbler. But one of my big things that I do recommend you guys doing is when you have your electrical tape and you are wrapping it around your mug, be sure that you have a little bit of extra and you snip it off and you fold it up to make a tail. Now, when you make that tail, it will be so much easier for you guys to go over to your tumbler turners and peel it back off because you do have to remove those after a certain amount of time. So be sure that after you apply this, cut you off an inch or two extra and like fold it up to where it's easy for you to grab and to peel off later. The next thing you're going to want to do whenever you have taped off your tumbler is to go ahead and go outside or go somewhere where well ventilated and take your spray adhesive with you, but also apply gloves on. And the longer the better, guys. I do have to say, I had gloves on and my whole forearms were sticky for days, but that is okay. It is the joys of crafting and I would do it again in a heartbeat. But if you guys have some longer like dish gloves or things like that, that would be ideal to do. But so what I've done now is after it's taped off and you have your spray adhesive, I actually had a box here and I cut this little flap out of the box and I laid it down just like this and stuck my hand inside the box, and it really did a good job if you are wanting to do yours indoors. Now you can obviously go outside, but basically the whole time I was making these outside, it was rainy, it was damp, I didn't really want to risk it, so I just rigged that little box up and it actually worked pretty well. So after you've picked your spot to go and apply your spray adhesive, again, I recommend to put your hand inside the cup. It just, for some reason, works a little better. And with your tape on both sides, you're just going to take this, shake it up for a bit, and apply some light coats. And I did notice that pumping instead of a steady spray with this spray adhesive did work pretty darn well. So, you know, spray and then stop, spray, stop, spray, stop when you get to one side or another, being sure to get all around your tumbler in an even, thin coat. And right after you have applied your spray adhesive, you're going to want to move quickly over to a poster board is what I would recommend, a poster board on the tabletop or on the floor or something like that. And take your glitter and go ahead and sprinkle it all over your spray adhesive. And if you run out of glitter, it's a good thing because you can just pick up your poster board and you know, fold it down and slide the extra right back into your glitter so that you have more to be able to craft with. But after that, guys, after you've sprayed it and you've glittered it, let it dry for at least 30 minutes. And then after the 30 minutes are up, you're actually going to go back in there, give it another coat of spray adhesive and another coat of glitter. And after that, I would let it dry for 1 hour. After it's dried for 1 hour, what you're going to do is you're going to take it back outside or back in your little rigged up box if you want to spray paint in there, and you're going to take your polyacrylic. So this is great stuff. I love this polyurethane, not polyacrylic, my bad, it's polyurethane. And what you're going to do is you're going to go in your box or outside and you're going to spray a generous coating over all of the tumbler. Now, right now, your tape is still in place, so I hope you haven't touched your tape. Leave your tape on there from all of the spray adhesive and glittering processes, and you're going to leave it on as well when you do your polyurethane. So after your polyurethane, I would allow it to dry for another hour. Now, after your polyurethane has dried and you are confident that your mug is pretty dry, you're going to just remove your tape. It shouldn't be very messy because the polyurethane does a great job at kind of sticking all the glitter where it's supposed to be so that when you are applying your resin and things like that, you don't have glitter flying everywhere. It is a step I would definitely recommend you not skip. But anyways, so you're going to remove your tape, and like we talked about in the comparison video, you're going to want to add tape just a little bit higher than you did before, and that creates that seal that we want. So go ahead after your polyurethane is dry and remove your tape and reapply the tape a little bit above where you had it last time. And another little tip for you guys is whenever you are going to reapply your tape, if you're working with any smaller tumblers that aren't like the 32-ounce ones or the little wine glass ones, if you're using those, you might want to go ahead and put your tumbler into that foam football on wherever you're going to turn it at, because if you tape it up and then try to put the football into it, sometimes that tape wants to fold in with the football, and we will be removing that while it's turning. So we really want to set ourselves up for success as we remove the tape later. So sometimes you might just want to go ahead and put that the football inside your cup and then tape it around. So all you have to do is stick it on the rod on your electric turner or your pipe turner if you choose to do a manual one and not an automatic one. Okay guys, after you have your tumbler taped and on your turner, go ahead and flip that turner on and just let it be spinning a little bit. And honestly, this is like so obsessive, but I actually like to get down and look at the tumbler turner and see if the football in my tumbler is rolling perfectly straight. Sometimes, unfortunately, it's on the football wrong and it wants to turn like this. So just make sure it's up straight and you know you're going to get the best results, because again, when you're spending so much time on a process like this, you really want to make sure you do every step to a T as best as you can. So that's just another little extra tip that is pretty obsessive, but I think it's worth it in the long run to get success with projects much like this. But anyways, so once your tumbler is already on your turner and it is turning, go ahead and mix your epoxy. Now, what you're going to need for each tumbler is 2 little cups, 2 jumbo popsicle sticks, and your resin. Now, again, the resin does come with cups to measure. However, I like to eyeball it, but for the first few times, definitely go ahead and measure it yourself. You can see how much we've used of this, but I would recommend 10 to 15 milliliters of A and B for one of these. Now, if you're using a smaller one, use a smaller amount. If you're using a larger one, like the 32 ounce, and the 32 ounce was also chunky glitter, so that took up quite a bit of resin. But really, and I hate saying this because resin is pretty expensive, but it's better to have too much than not enough. And really, I do have to say, you're going to use a lot less than you think. I have mixed a ton of resin in the past few weeks, and sadly, I've had to throw a lot of it away because after you mix the A and the B together, of course, it starts to cure. So it's not really like you could save it for another project unless you could very quickly have another one ready or things like that. And I've even bulked up and done 2 at a time. So I would just like double my recipe, or my measurements and things like that, and had 2 tumblers on 2 different turners, turning as I epoxy one and epoxy the other with the leftover epoxy from the first one. That is a good tip if you don't want to waste it. But again, if you don't have the resources to do that, just play it safe and go 10 to 15 milliliters for a basic one like this. If you want to do more, you can absolutely do more, but it just depends on how thick of a coat you want to do it. But since these guys do get 2 coats anyways, I would definitely just do a very thin, light coat. But after you have measured out your epoxy A and your B side, you're going to take your popsicle sticks and you're going to mix them both separately. You want them separately mixed. I would at least stir each by itself for 30 seconds minimum. And of course, one is way thicker than the other, as you can see. And that's just the way that epoxy was made. So don't freak out if one of yours is like super thick and one of them is pretty liquidy. That's just how it was made. So you want to stir each of them separately. And it was way easier for me to pour the B side into the A side because the A side is what is super, super goopy and thick. So I would go ahead and stir my A side first, and then my thinner B side I would stir, and then I would pour the thinner one into the B side, stir them all together. Now you want to stir them together for at least like 3 minutes. Yeah, I would stir them for like 3 minutes, as much time as you want to give it. And listen guys, don't start freaking out if you are mixing in some air bubbles, because you will see air bubbles in your individual cups. In both cups together, you'll see some air bubbles, but those will go away on their own as they cure, so don't even worry about that. But guys, after you have mixed up your epoxy, before you actually mix, you're going to want to glove up, or right before you do try to epoxy your tumblers. So I always put on 2 gloves on both my hands. I take off my jewelry and things like that. And once you're done mixing your epoxy, your tumbler will be turning on the tumbler turner, as it is amazingly doing. And you're just going to take your gloves and the epoxy, and I throw my sticks away, so I don't need my sticks anymore. All I want is my cup and both of my gloved hands. That's all that I need. While the tumbler is turning, I'm going to take my epoxy and 2 fingers, and I like to scoop out a little bit of the epoxy, or pour it, however you really want to do it. It's personal preference. And just start basically like moving it around, massaging it in as it's turning. And don't start freaking out if you don't feel like you're finished with a section and it's like turning too fast for you. I promise guys, you'll be able to get it. It's not a race. You don't have to do it super fast. Just take your time with it, little by little. You don't want to use too much epoxy. But if you ever feel like you have used too much epoxy, a great hack that I have is to take one of your fingers after you are done, after you know you've got that great seal around the top and the bottom, or whichever edges you feel like you wanted to tape. As long as you know you have that good seal and you feel all around the tumbler and it feels like there's no spots that you can still feel too much glitter, I like to take one of my fingers, run it down the tumbler, and then scrape it back into my cup. Sometimes I found if I did not check if there was too much excess resin or epoxy on my tumblers, it would kind of all move to the bottom or all move to the top, or things. It would like start to pool and then get thicker. So this is a good indication that you guys can see. And I don't know if you can see it too well, but on the bottom here, and of course if you felt it, you could most definitely feel it. On the bottom here, it kind of pooches out a little bit. And sadly, that is because there was too much excess epoxy on the bottom of that tumbler. But it's okay, guys, because we've given you the tips so that you will not have that problem. Okay guys, this next one is a pretty important step. So after you have applied your epoxy to your tumbler and you have removed all the excess epoxy from your tumbler, let it sit, let it rotate constantly for 30 minutes. Now around the 30-minute mark, I would say no more than 45 minutes. You need to go over to your tumbler and you need to peel off that awesome tape that you had a little wing out for. So just pick up that little tab that you made yourself so easy and peel it right off. Now, you don't want to wait because you want to peel it off while the epoxy is still wet, because you cannot do it once it's cured, and you do not want tape stuck all over the top of your tumbler. That is something we do not want. So make sure you take that off, but do not fear if you see a little bit of epoxy has came under the tape or escaped around the tape, or while you were taking it off and holding it with your gloves, maybe you got some epoxy down on the stainless steel like you didn't want. All you have to do is take a paper towel and more of your rubbing alcohol and just get that right off. It comes off like a dream, you know. Just make sure you're gloved up again when you do take the tape off, and just wipe off any of the excess epoxy that you have seen get gobbed up on the top or the bottom or anywhere you really don't want it. Okay guys, now that you have removed the tape, let your tumbler tumble and roll around for at least 5 hours. I would do more like 8 just to be safe, but after around the 5-6 hour mark, you can carefully take them off of the tumbler and just set them down somewhere where no dust are going to go on them or anything like that. Nobody's going to grab it or throw it in the washer or the dishwasher or anything like that. So you can grab it after the 5-6 hour mark, set it down and let it dry for, I would say, at least a total dry time of 10-12 hours, and then you're ready to rock and roll on your vinyl. Now again, since we are using fine glitter, you do not have to sand it. So you don't have to sand it at all like you do with the chunky glitter. It should be perfectly smooth. Now if it's not smooth and you did a little bit of a thinner coat on the epoxy and you do feel a little bumps, feel free to go in there with a sanding block. It's really just whatever you guys want to do. But once it's perfectly smooth, apply your vinyl down with some transfer paper as you normally would, and then I recommend going in with some more rubbing alcohol and some paper towel and lightly going over the whole thing, because I just really like to keep all of this stuff clean and keep fingerprints off, and I just feel like as many problems as I can eliminate, the better. So it never hurts to go back in there and re-clean it before you put it back on the tumbler turner and get it back ready for the epoxy. So after you do add your vinyl and after you clean it, you guessed it guys, tape it up again. But this time you don't have to tape it any higher. You can actually tape it back down to the glitter line. You can tape it to the exact same line you had it last time, but don't put it any higher, because with that first coat, you already got that amazing seal that you desired. So you already have that seal, so you can apply the tape however you would like for the second time. But again, if you're using a smaller one, go ahead and put this into the football on the turner before applying the tape. Get you a little bitty wing ready to go so that you can peel that off easily. Go through your exact process with your epoxy. The second layer of epoxy uses even less than the first layer, because the first layer you were trying to cover up all of the imperfections in the glitter and get in all those little nooks and crannies. And in the second layer, all you're doing is creating a glossy finish over your vinyl to keep that permanent. So it's going to take even less epoxy than before. I would recommend going ahead and mixing 10 milliliters of each A and B side just to be on the safe side. But it's whatever you guys would like to do. But repeat that process on the tumbler turner. Do the same process with your epoxy, with your gloves on and all that. 30 minutes later, glove up again, no later than 45 minutes, and peel off that tape, and then let it dry for another 5 to 6 hours. And then guys, all you have to do is take it off, let it set, and let it cure for 24 hours. Now, after that 24 hours is up, you guys have killed making an awesome glitter tumbler. What did you guys think? I hope that you enjoyed this video, and I hope that you are now super confident in making your own perfect glitter tumblers every time. I hope that with these tips and tricks, you are confident in making your own glitter tumblers now, and I promise you, you all will be successful and have some awesome successful projects when you choose to make this tumbler because of these tips and tricks that I have given you. I had so much fun making all of these tumblers and getting the perfect tutorial together for you guys, and I hope that you enjoyed this video as well. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comments below. I will be happy to answer any questions you have. Give this video a like and let us know what you'd like to see next. Thank you so much for watching, guys. Bye!